Welcome, 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 everybody, to another episode of the Tapping into Life podcast. It is so great to know that each and every one of you are continuing the journey to spiritual identity, self discovery, healing, and making you a better you. It is my honor and a privilege to be having a conversation today with none other than Mr. David Kitchen. So, welcome, David. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me. I love having these types of conversations with like-minded individuals and be able to dive into some of this stuff. So I'm excited, man.
Good, good, good. So, are you drinking coffee?
No, I don't
Uh,
drink any caffeine. No caffeine for this guy.
no, I saw you take a sip, and I'm like, is he drinking coffee? I'm drinking coffee. That's my
No.
thing.
I stay off the caffeine, man. It's nothing but water.
I am trying. I drink water throughout the day after I have my coffee in the morning, and but I have to have a certain amount of coffee.
Most people do. I'm going on year 9 now. 9 years, no caffeine.
More power to you. So welcome, welcome, welcome. It's great to have you here with us to have a conversation. I'm pretty sure that you'll drop some jewels of knowledge and wisdom and inspiration that we all can apply to our everyday lives and help us navigate through this thing called life.
Oh man, and it is a never-ending journey, brother. It is a never-ending journey.
Absolutely, absolutely. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about who you are?
Yeah. So most people know me as Coach Kitch. I was born and raised, man. I tell people it was the best gift I was ever given. Born and raised by a single mother. Got the opportunity to see my mom just set every example that you could want. You know what I mean? And got the opportunity to see that from a young age. I did see some things. There was a stepfather in the house. You know, he struggled with addiction. And so that kind of flipped our lives upside down. And so I became the man of the house at about, 10 years old. And then from there, man, had the opportunity to move in with our grandmother and have a much more stable kind of later half of my childhood. So like the high school years. And from there, man, played football, got the opportunity to play in college, and then had a 10-year coaching career in college strength and conditioning. So made my way to some of the top schools in the country, had the opportunity to compete against some of the best and coach against some of the best. And, now I work on a daily basis doing what I love, and that's coaching people in a different way, and spending time with people and helping people get into the arena of life and get out of the stands and take accountability and take control of their lives. And whether that's in the business sense when we're talking leadership and culture, or if it's in the personal sense, we work with entrepreneurs, we work with nonprofits, and I still do a lot of work in the athletic space at all. So that's a 30,000-foot view of who I am. There's a lot more that we can unpack and dive into, but that's the Reader's Digest version.
Okay, okay. So for you, what was that moment that you realized that you wanted to go into life coaching? Life coaching and motivation speaker.
Yeah, so for me, it was a culmination of all the things that I had learned throughout my coaching career and throughout my life, man. It's interesting, you go through life and you think you have a vision. And so my first vision in life, I thought, was to be this all-star football player and to be the man and be the guy, right? And then the world says to you, hold on, dude, you're not thinking big enough. And so it gives you a knock on the head, right? My knock on the head was 3 knee surgeries and being medically disqualified from football. So all of a sudden, I don't have an identity now, because that was my identity. That was who I was, right? So, okay, I regroup and I'm like, all right, I'm going to be the best coach that I can possibly be. So I climb the ranks and I get all the way up there, and I'll never forget it. I was standing on the Paris Hotel in Las Vegas. I was coaching at UNLV at the time. My best friend came out to visit, and we're standing on the balcony overlooking the Vegas Strip at the Paris Hotel. And he says to me, "What are you going to do when it's not enough?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "You've given up 8 years of your life, man. You've missed weddings, you've missed birthdays, you miss all these things. What are you going to do when that confetti falls and it's not enough?" And that was like, oh, okay. Right. So the world again telling me, you're doing something for you right now. You're doing an ego thing. right? And so then I was like, okay, I'm going to start looking in other directions. I started to explore leadership. I started to explore my master's degree in sports psychology, learning how the mind worked, all these things. And so then I started Edge Leadership Academy, and I went out and I started to just teach leadership. And it was just like leadership coaching, culture coaching for organizations. That's what I did. And I was like, I'm going to make a bunch of money doing this, and I can have the life that I want, and I can be around my family, and I can do all these things. Right. But here was the thing. I was still doing it for me, for me. And so I start getting involved in these other businesses. And 6 months into it, I'm making a bunch of money. I've walked away from a Division I coaching job. I've launched my own business. I now have a 22,000 square foot gym that I run as well. And all of a sudden, life once again says, hold on, dude, you're doing this for you. Let me remind you what happens. And I slip into a depression, and I start having panic attacks, and I get diagnosed with anxiety and depression. And all of a sudden I'm on meds and I almost lose everything. And that was when I realized, hold on, this isn't about me. This isn't about me. I got to do something that helps other people. I got to do something that's purely not for me. And so that was the moment where I decided, okay, I no longer only do leadership. I'm going to step into helping people live their best lives. I'm going to step into helping people learn from the mistakes that I've made. I'm going to step into using this PhD that I'm working on in psychology and this background that I have around high-performing individuals and the lessons I've learned in the arena of life, and I'm going to help other people. So that was the moment for me. It was a culmination of moments that led to, okay, I'm actually going to step into being a motivational speaker. Because for the first 2 years of my business, even though my brand was growing and I was doing these things, I started every single talk by saying, I'm not a motivational speaker. Verbatim. That's what I said on stage. I'm not a motivational speaker. Now, when people talk to me, absolutely. Listen, I'm somebody that adds value. Am I only a motivational speaker? Absolutely not. I'm going to give you the theory. I'm going to give the execution, and then I'm going to be your biggest hype man. So I'm all three.
Okay. I think that just from hearing you tell us a little bit about who you are, I see that we both was at the same point to where we was doing things for ego. And because me, it was like, look, I want to make this amount of money. I want to be married. I want to have kids. I want to have my own businesses. And, and those things are great. But at some point, you have to understand, where exactly, what's your purpose in life?
Right.
What is that assignment that you was created on this earth to do? And many people find that, some people find that, if they pray to God, some people find that by, just meditating. And, I found that not only with praying to God, but I also found that by way of experiences, and going through these moments, going through the depression, going through the suicidal ideation, going through the anxiety, and at the same time, also learning. And I think what really bothered me about just seeing things in the world is I went through it. I'm in the process of healing, but now there's this next individual. There's this man or woman or little boy or little girl, and they're going through the same things that I've been through. And it bothered me. It's like, I went through this. I know how much it hurt. I know how, the thoughts of suicide and anxiety and depression, I know how that just rips, and it just claws and it just breaks you down. And, you just lose yourself. And then when you come out of it, you see the light, but okay, but who am I? Who am I on this earth? And there were times I'm like, I don't know which way to go. I lost myself at a very, in my early 20s. So, and I thank God that he took me through that in my early 20s, and just asking, why am I going through this in my early 20s? I'm 21, 22, 23 at the oldest, I barely scraped the surface in adulthood. And now you taking me through this. Like, what's going on? And one thing he said to me, he said, because I'm going to use you to do everything that I'm about to heal you from, so that you can heal other people from it. And being that young adult, you really are not focused, you're really not focused on adulthood and everything that comes with it. Young 20s, what you thinking about? Career, thinking about being successful. Later on down the line, you're thinking about being in love, and but for me, it was also the beginning of my spiritual journey. And here I am, I'm at 33, and it's like, okay, well, it's been 10 years. I look back on it like a couple of months ago, and it's like, it's been 10 years since I'm going through this. Here I was way back when. Here I am 10 years later, and it's like, I did pretty good. I still got a long way to go. But, I really did, pretty good. Here's what I've learned. Here's where, I still need some work in. And like you said, it's a never-ending story. So, because you're so used to seeing things in the eyes of how someone wants you to see it, and how, the expectations from other people on you. So, with you, it's you're getting people to a point where they feel good about themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's understanding too, to your point, that your survival story becomes somebody else's survival guide. Mm-hmm. Right. And so it's being able to, it's selfish for you to keep those experiences in. It's selfish for you to keep those lessons to yourself. Right. And so it's stepping into that. Right. And so stepping into, it's like they talk about heroes and villains have the same origin story. Right. The only difference is the hero gets hurt by the world and he says, I'm never going to let the world hurt anybody else. The villain gets hurt by the world and says, I'm going to make the whole world hurt because I got hurt. Right. And so it's being able to step into that hero's journey of, and it's not arrogance. It's just, hey, I've been through these things. Let me help you. I will help you. But you have to be genuine in it. Right. And you have to go through the awakening of, okay, these things happen not to me, but for me. Mm-hmm. And getting to the point to be able to say, okay, I'm now going to use all these things from my past and these tools that I have, because we all have this really special toolbox, right? So if you look at me, I have this toolbox of the single parent household. I grew up, I saw addiction. I learned emotional intelligence at a really young age because I had to figure out what was going on with stepdad when he came into the house. Where was he at? I had to figure that out. I had to step into the role of being a protector and being a leader in my family early on. I had to be a role model for my younger brother. Then as I got into coaching and got into athletics, I got extremely competitive. I learned how to compete and how to deal with failure. And then as a coach, I learned how to navigate conversating and communicating and connecting with 18 to 22-year-old kids. And so you build all these skills, and it all leads to what I'm doing now. All those skills were the toolbox. That was the world and the universe or God or however you want to put it. That was everything coming together in the way that it was supposed to come together. It was me picking up a screwdriver over here, a wrench over here, a hammer over here, so that when it was time to put this beautiful thing together that I'm trying to build now, I had all the proper tools to be able to build it. And not only that, I had gone through enough that I had the resiliency to sit through the storms that were going to come through with that, right? Because it's not easy to step into the arena. Means you're putting everything in front of everybody else. It means I'm stepping out here in front of you, and I'm going to be cringeworthy to other people. There's other people that are going to throw stones. I have to have developed the resiliency from the things that I went through to be able to withstand that and stand in front and say, hey, no, I'm going to hold the shield because all the people that I'm helping are behind this shield. And so if you want to throw stones at me, have at it. I'm good because I'm helping these people back here. You're still sitting in the stands. I'm in the arena and I'm helping these people get across, right? Sure. And so those are some of the realizations you have to have in order to get to the point that me and you are at now and that we're trying to help other people get to.
I think for me sometimes my when I look at my calling, and like you said, us being that shield, like you can say what you want to say to me, you could throw the rocks and stuff. And for me, because I'm not overprotective, but I'm protective over the broken and the lost, because we have people who are going through these moments where, their entirety, they're lost or broken, or just different aspects, they're already down. They're already feel like giving up. They're already at wit's end. They're literally about to jump across, jump over the cliff. And it's like, for me, there's times where, no, you can say what you want to say about me. And you can throw anything you want to throw about me. But these back here, it's a whole different beast. It's like, It's like I go into full alpha lion. Like, no, these are going to make it. And if I got to, deal with you one-on-one, then so be it. And I think, we have to, if we're going to be in this position, we have to understand the resilience that we have. Correct. Like, I never knew how fast I bounced back to somebody said it one day. Like, it's like I lost a job, a couple of weeks later, I got another one.
And it's the mentality. And I heard this recently from a former military person who was talking about the sheepdog mentality. Like, he's like, the best people in the world are sheepdogs, because they're the ones that protect the flock from the wolves. Right. So those people sitting there behind their computer screens or in real life or wherever, throwing rocks at these sheep that are just trying to make it across the pasture. It's our job to be the sheepdog that herd them and fight off those wolves. Right. Like that's our job. Like that's who we are. And that's what we were trained to do. Just like a sheepdog, they were trained to do that. Right. And so, yeah, it's exactly that. And it's stepping into that purpose and saying, no, this is who I am. Right. And this is what I am. And this is what was planned for me and how I'm going to execute on that to the best of my ability.
Yeah. When I look at, just looking at, your Instagram and all the things that you're saying and all the things that you're doing, like I said earlier, you want people to feel good about themselves.
Yes.
This is, so if you're looking at the spectrum of motivational speaking and life coaching and things of that nature, we start in the middle. We go through moments, in our lives. We go through these journeys, we experience the spiritual scarring. We experience the trauma and, but we also go through that process where we understand exactly the magnitude and the power that we have within ourselves. And I was talking with, it was another life coach I was talking with, and I explained this to him. I said, see, there are some life coaches and some motivational speakers that go to the right. Now, when they go to the right, it's, it's their goal and their mission to make people feel so good about themselves that they get up and they tackle everything that's negative in their lives. And you have some like myself where we want to do the same thing. We want to make you feel good, but we also highlight, that fact that at some point you got to peel back the layers of the things that caused you to feel a certain type of way you're feeling.
Yep. Yeah, I don't deal in delusion. I'm not gonna give you false motivation that you're gonna go and do. Like, you got to fix the system if you want a different output. You have to start to fix the inputs. So what are the inputs in your life that are making you feel this way, right? And what are the inputs in your life that are putting these limiting beliefs in? Like, we got to tackle through that. So that's why I talk so openly about the fact that I go to therapy every week. That's why I talk so openly about these things, because it's like, listen, no, in order for me to get to where I'm at now and where I'm going, I have to continue to heal and continue to fix the things that were behind me, because ultimately, if I don't, one day they're going to come roaring up from the dungeon, and those demons are going to grab the steering wheel and we're going off the road. Right. And so I have to work on that stuff. And so when I'm working with people, I agree with you 100%. I don't deal in just falsities and fake motivation and you feel good when you're around me, but then I want you to feel good when you lay your head down at night.
Right.
When I'm not in your head, and when you don't have me in your AirPods, when you're not at my seminar anymore, when you're not talking to me, like I want you to feel good Monday through Sunday. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, like that's what I want. Because I want that to come from you. And I tell people this, even in relationships, like romantic relationships, it's not my job to make you happy. Just like it's not your job to make me happy. It is my job to bring my happiness to the relationship. And it's your job to bring your happiness to the relationship. I'm not responsible for your happiness. Right. And so that's part of our deal as life coaches and as executive coaches. And I whatever you want to call it, performance coaches, there's a million different terms for it. Right. But part of our job is to teach people to cultivate that confidence and cultivate that meaning for themselves, right? That's why I start with everybody. I don't care if you come to me for business coaching, you come to me for performance and mindset coaching, you come to me for life coaching. We start with character. We start at the beginning. We start in here, right? I'm going to lead in here first, and then we'll work our way out. And that's always my approach, because I've seen it myself, and I saw what happened to me, and there's that quote that the most dangerous thing that can happen to a person is their talent takes them somewhere that their character can't sustain. Right. And that's so true. Right. So if we don't fix that stuff, everything else becomes irrelevant, because the success, whatever, like you said, you're so excited, you go tackle all these issues in your life. So say you go and do all this, all that money and that success and that fame and that notoriety, all that does is reveals who you really are. It's going to highlight those flaws. It's going to highlight those cracks. Mm-hmm. It's going to highlight that ego. It's going to highlight the areas of insecurity. All those things are going to come rushing out. Right. But if you spend the time to do the work, then you show up there to that mountaintop that you're chasing. And now you're ready to take that gift. You're ready to take those, those blessings or whatever you want to call them. You're ready to step into those opportunities and actually own them. And you'll find that you were chasing it for a completely different reason before. Right.
Yeah.
When you get there from a fulfilled place.
Right. And one thing that you said was, you're doing the work. And I've said this numerous times on my podcast, like, look, at the end of the day, I don't care what nobody goes through, we could peel back the layers all day. We can do the life coaching sessions. We can do the podcast. We can do a seminar, whatever. At the end of the day, it all boils down to acknowledging, holding yourself accountable, and doing the work. And for you could just, when you say you got to do the work, you got to hold yourself accountable, you got to acknowledge what's going on. It's like people be like, it's like, I want a job, but do I have to get up off the couch and fill out application? How do you think that you're going to get from one point in life to the next if you're not putting in the work? You're not holding yourself accountable for making sure these things are done, for maintaining the good things, from getting rid of the bad, for, first and foremost, acknowledging, and, another thing that you said when, they do all these things, they be successful, but then it starts to highlight things. And I always say, an infected root will always manifest in the fruit that's presented.
Facts.
Because an infected root, it's absorbing toxins, right? And you may not feel anything about it. You may not see anything. Well, if you look at a lot of viruses that are in the human body, like your body fights off viruses every single day. Some viruses lay dormant until a particular time. And when that particular time goes, it's like, boom. So with me, it's first of all, we got to understand these roots, and people don't realize that your roots absorb, it's your mindset.
Yeah.
Your roots absorb everything in your spiritual atmosphere, just like a tree roots absorb everything in the dirt. It's either its toxins or its nutrients. Now you have, the choice into really defining who you are and understanding things about who you are so that you can build that shield that, okay, toxins are knocking at my door. Be gone. Nutrients. Oh, come on in. Welcome, welcome, But it's a lot of people. We have these blockages and these spiritual infections, and it may come from a variety of things, but the hard part that people, it's either they just have a tough time doing it or they just don't want to do it at all, is identifying what's stopping you from being great.
Right. Or they're not ready. That's the other thing. Like, and to your point about things laying dormant, I mean, if people looked at me through high school and like growing up, like granted, like when I saw all these things as a kid, I get to high school and I'm like, no, I don't want to say I'm a model citizen. I was a party animal on the weekends. I was a high school kid, but I was doing the right things in the community. I was a role model for my brother. I was a straight A student. I got into a great university, right? But here was the thing. When I got to that university, all those toxins came out. And all of a sudden, I was spinning. And people were like, who is this dude? Where did this come from? Like, this wasn't supposed to happen to him. He wasn't supposed to be the guy getting in fights. He wasn't supposed to be the guy drinking all the time. He wasn't supposed to be the guy that was almost kicked off the team. He wasn't supposed to be, like, that's not who he should be. But it was those toxins were in there. That infection, like you said, was in there. And I had never let it out before. It had never been triggered in me before. But then I got there and it all came out. And it took a long time for me to be able to face that, right? And be able to say, hold on a minute. Like, this is on me. This is my responsibility. I have to fix this. This isn't, nobody else is going to come in and clean this up for me. I have to clean this up myself. And so, that's a big part of it as well. And then figuring out too, like you were saying about figuring out the soil, like what are you letting into your environment? Like, what are you letting around you? I mean, the more successful, quote unquote, by external metrics, because I think of it very differently, but quote unquote, if you look on the outside and you say, okay, Kitch is successful, he's done these things. The higher I climb, the smaller my circle gets, and the more intentional I am about the people that I allow in my life and the access and influence that I allow them to have on me. And I'm a junkyard dog over those boundaries. I mean, I do not play at all. And sometimes people will be like, yo, that was wild. Like, you really just said that to that person. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm not going to play that game. I'm past that. I'm not doing that. If you come up to me and you want to talk about the old me, I'm not having that conversation. That guy's gone. We're done. You want to talk about moving forward? I'm in. Let's have that conversation, right? If you want to come up to me and have those, if you want to bring negativity into my life, if you want to bring limiting beliefs into my life, that type of stuff, I'm not for it. It's just you get to a point where you're like, you don't blame the plant for not growing. You blame the soil, right? So you got to look at your soil and you got to say, what am I taking in? What, from a social media standpoint, from a social circle standpoint, from a relationship standpoint, from a family standpoint, like, because all those things influence what manifests, right? And what comes out of you. And so you have to ask yourself that. And it's a hard thing to do. And I know it's something that's really, really tough. And like you said about doing the work, it requires, and it's not, I was going to say it was dramatic, but it's not dramatic. You have to go to war with yourself. Like you have to do the dirty stuff and get down there and say, you got to press on what hurts and you got to sit in it and feel that pressure and feel that uncomfortableness. And even now, like, you think I want to wake up on a Tuesday morning and talk about my daddy issues with my therapist? Hell no. Like, excuse my language. Heck no. I don't want to do that. Like, I just want to go about my life, but I have to do those things because I have to keep maintaining my soil so that I can grow into what I'm trying to grow into. Like, so I know that was a long-winded response, but those are the things that come out for me that I'm like, you have to be so intentional about the influences and the little things, the energy that's around you. Like, you have to curate that stuff.
I mean, and I agree 100% of what you said. It's people have to really understand what they're allowing in.
and say, I'm choosing this. Be honest with yourself. Say, I'm choosing this.
Right. You know, and have to understand the effects of whatever it is that you're allowing into your space. Me, you know, I was talking with my husband about this, and he was saying, he has his outreach, and I have my podcast, and we were doing so many great things, and I was telling him, like, prior to me even meeting him, like, my circle was smaller and smaller and smaller. Like, I'm not about to sit up here. To me, it was like, okay, well, if I text you, hey, how you doing? How's life? What's new? I want to have a conversation about, what's going on with the both of us, right? So you share a little bit about you, what's going on. I share a little bit about me, what's going on. Let's have these conversations. It's about me and it's about you. I don't want to, every time you pick up the phone, it's always, David, guess what? I heard about so-and-so. And it's like, bro, seriously, cut it out. Like, I mean, it was, it's nice to be informative about, nice to be informed about what's going on in the world, but, okay, yeah, so-and-so had a breakdown, so-and-so had a moment, so-and-so did this, that. Okay, fine, but me, it's like, okay, I'm very selective in all aspects of my life, like who I let in all aspects of my life. I'm talking about who I let in into my marriage, as far as sharing information, who we hang out with, who I call a friend, who I talk on the phone to, and I was telling somebody the other day, I'm very selective about who I even invite on this podcast. So
I appreciate that. that.
And because I see a lot, I see a lot, and it's like, I could just look at someone and be like, no judgment, but you're in a space and you're having this energy and you have this mindset that would not be the best fit for where I am in my life. I mean, it took years for me to scrape up all the toxins and I had to bleach some stains away, and so I'm not going to now do the same thing that caused me to go through this moment to where I had to do all the cleaning. And so when you say select, I mean, yeah, it's like, I always tell people, like, now in my life, I want people who are like-minded, right? If I want to open up a restaurant, you ain't got to open up a restaurant, all right? I'm not going to cut you off because you don't want to open up a restaurant, but I want people who are like-minded in whatever they decide to do. If they want to be a doctor, you put your best foot forward and one day be the best damn doctor ever. If you want to own a restaurant, you do that. But we got to understand that you can't sign up for a game and play the game, the rules of the game. And then when it bites you, then you want to play victim.
Right.
So it's like, okay, one thing, I always had highlighted in the first couple of seasons of the podcast, like, look, we're not no T-page. So you won't get on here and hear me talk about what Beyonce done did, what Michael Jordan done did, or, what whoever did, and, allegedly, because we're not going to do that, right? And so, because what you put out there, if you put that fruit out there, that says a lot about who you are. The fruit that you bear says a lot about who you are. And I was telling somebody this the other day, I'm like, you realize, let's say you're an apple tree and you're bearing all these apples. How many apples actually go to be, to be of a nutrient or some kind of source of food or some kind of benefit to other people? Your fruit, you partake in your fruit more than the person that you speak the fruit into. So it's like I can sit here and, let's say you're having a moment, life is a little rough for you. I could impart fruit in your atmosphere, and it's nutritious and it helps you out and it gives you those nutrients. Unbeknownst to, to knowledge that I'm also speaking the same fruit that I've spoken to you. And I tell people, you really have to be mindful in the fruit that you share with other people. Because if because your soul does more talking than your mouth would ever do. So if your soul is messed up, your soul is a lot of times, imparting the fruit. It's sharing the fruit. It's bearing the fruit through your emotions, through what comes out of your mouth, how you think about everybody, how you judge everybody. So it's like, if I say, David ain't going to be nothing. He ain't never going to be nothing. He just going to be this little poor kid, this, that, and the third. Yeah, that might affect you. Your feelings might be hurt. That might be like, Matthew, right? I ain't never going to amount to anything. But that's only a fraction. Let's say out of 100%, that's only 10%. Now imagine where's the other 90% going? To the person who opened up their mouth, and partaking in the fruit, and that fruit is bad. Don't nobody want to eat no molded, fermented, nasty, smelling, stinking apple. Don't nobody want to go through these things. So it's like, the power of the tongue speak life and death. And whoever love its power shall partake in its fruit. So it's like, if I impart life, if I speak life, then all of that will rain back on me as well. But if I speak the hate, if I speak the judgment, if I speak the negativity, I didn't, hurt David's feelings with just 10%. God only, I don't even want to have that moment to where I got to reap the other 90%.
Well, and that's the thing too, Matthew, is it's realizing, like, I'm very clear. I'm very upfront with people. Like, one of the fastest ways to get the boot out of my life is if I hear you gossiping, blaming, complaining, or defending. If you're doing any of those things, I'm good. I'm not interested in the conversation that you're trying to have, because exactly for that reason, right? There's vibrations, there's energy about that. I don't even want it around me, right? And so I'm very clear about that. And then the other thing is just understanding too, like, you have to do checks. And so I'm always checking with people, like, how am I making them feel? And then also, like, what do I feel after I spend time with them, right? Like, how does that interact with me? And so even things like, I'm huge on character. I want to do, it's so simple. And this is probably the most brutally simple way to put what I want to do with my life. I want to do dope stuff with dope people to help other people. That's what I want to do. And so it's like, when I go out to dinner with people, if it's like a potential business partnership, maybe a potential friendship, a mutual friend introduced us, whatever it is, I'm going to set up situations where I can assess your character. We're not just having dinner. I'm not just listening to you pitch your business to me. I'm also watching, how do you treat the Uber driver? How do you treat the doorman? Right? What do you say about somebody when they get up and walk away from the table? When that guy gets up, or if that guy's wife gets up and walks to the bathroom, do you look? Like, I want to see, like, what kind of character do you have? And then the other thing is, I make it very upfront at the beginning of dinner. I do this every single dinner. All the drinks are on me. All the drinks are on me. Now, I might only have 2 drinks all day if I drink it all. Mm-hmm. I want to see who here can resist the temptation. I want to see who here is going to overindulge. And then I want to see who you become once you have a couple drinks in you, because that's going to tell me the truth, right? And so I'm always checking that stuff. Like you said, I'm to use your fruit analogy, I'm peeling back the skin on everybody's fruit right away. And I'm like, okay, what are we dealing with here? Because I'm not going to allow it in, because here's the thing. If they'll gossip with you, they'll gossip about you. If they'll cheat with you, they'll cheat on you. If they'll defend you, or if they'll defend, their mistakes, then they're going to do the same thing to you when you walk out of the room. They're going to blame it on you. If they're going to complain with you, they're going to complain about you, right? So all those things, I'm like, no, I don't even want it associated with me. And so I'm so quick to make those judgments. And sometimes people might say that's harsh. Hey, he had a bad day, whatever. I'm like, no, I saw enough, because I gave multiple chances throughout the interaction for you to show me your character. I'm watching trends. I'm not watching singular events. I'm watching trends. And then if I see a trend that I don't like, I'm upfront about it. I'll be the first to leave a dinner early. Hey, you know what? I appreciate your time. Thanks for having me out. Y'all enjoy the drinks. I picked up the tab already. You guys are good. See you later. And I'm out. I'm good. I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to stay in this environment.
Right. And I feel you on that because I work in the hotel industry. I've been doing this for 12 years. So
you see it.
It's like people come up and it's like, you having a bad day and this, that, and the third. Okay, cool. Now, when it comes to customer service, I always say, look, if you're not called to do customer service, I strongly advise you not to do it because you're going to lose your job. Mm-hmm. That's a guarantee. But for me, it's like someone comes up with the bad attitude and, and it's like, even though the consequences of me saying what I want to say to this person or being ugly to this person may result in my termination, and people say, well, you can't do that. I can do what I want, but what's the choice? Right. And so, I may come across a guest and, that guest is like, I mean, they're angry about whatever. Me, it's like, I'm deciphering the volume of your frustrations to the point that you're trying to make. You're coming at me disrespectful. It's like, okay, now I'm triggered by loud, aggressive yelling towards me. That's one of my triggers, and so how I respond and how I treat people, like you said, that says a lot about people. So it's like, okay, if I have a coworker that's coming to me, oh, did you hear about such and such? Mm-hmm. And she was doing this and he was doing this and this, that, and the third. And I'm like, look, I want to do what they pay me to do so they can justify why they paying me what they paying me. And I want to go home. I don't care about who called out, who got rolled up, who cussed so-and-so out, who said this to the guest. I don't care. So,
and there's power in that, Matthew. That's the thing. There's power in, like, you even said earlier, like, I know what triggers me. I know certain things that trigger me. I'm the same way. I know what gets under my skin. So that being said, as soon as I feel that from somebody, I'm like, all right, I got to remove myself from this situation, and I'm going to choose not to engage. I'm just going to choose, right? And that's the power for people that they have to understand. I just had this conversation with a friend of mine. They were talking about how somebody in their life triggers them and sets them off on certain things and this, that, and I'm like, yeah, but you're choosing. Like, you're choosing to play the game. See, because here's the thing. I can sit down at dinner with people now because I know who I am. I've done the work. I've spent the time in the dungeons. I'm still doing the work. Like, I'm very clear on my good, my bad, my red flags, green flags, flaws, all that stuff. I know who they are. I'll call them by name. I'll look them in the eyes. That being said, I'm also able to then look at somebody and just say, you're playing a game that I have no interest in playing. So you can win. Have at it. Congratulations. You win. Because I'm not interested in it, right? And so it's funny, like, I said this to my little brother the other day. I said, dude, my life philosophy is if somebody comes up to me and says 2 + 2 = 7, good for you. I'm glad you're having that experience. That's phenomenal for you. I'm moving on, right? Like, I refuse to get pulled into ego trips, and they're traps. That's what they are. They're ego traps, where it's like, okay, let's compare our egos. Right. And the same thing happens even in our space. Like, when we talk about trauma and when we talk about pain, like, people try and turn pain into a contest, and it's not. Like, it's like, why are you even entertaining that? Why are we even comparing these two things? Why are you trying to draw somebody into this? But that's a society we're in, where we're always trying to one up each other and draw each other into these comparisons and contests. And it's like, once you understand who you are and you have the power to remove yourself from that, life is so much easier. Like, life is so much more peaceful. That's the big thing that people don't understand. Like, you have this peace around you that you're just like, I'm good. Like, I'm cool. Everything that happens, I'm cool.
That's where I am now. It's like, if I don't really if my life purpose or my life in general does not require me to deal with negativity or drama or stuff, listen, I'm gonna be on my front porch drinking my lemonade, minding my business. The neighbor come down. Did you hear? Look, that ain't got nothing to do with me. And I think now what pisses people off is because I use that word, I use that sentence a lot. Well, I say it so much that people can pretty much can look at me and be like, yeah, Matthew, he ain't gonna do nothing but say that ain't got nothing to do with me.
Got nothing to do. Yeah,
because it doesn't.
I'm not gonna give it energy.
Right. And so when I got to that moment, it's like I got so much time on my hands. Like, oh my gosh. Like what I thought I had no time, I got so much time because all the negativity and all the drama and having these people in my circle with all of this foolishness is gone. I got so much space and so much time.
Well, here's the other part of that. The other part is this, and I've noticed this as well. It's like I don't engage in things all the time. Like I'll pull away from something. Like I'm not going to give the time. Now, right. If it's something that it does concern me, I'm coming. You feel me? Like that's the thing. Like where people are like, oh, I didn't see that side. Like people forget that side still exists. It's like, no, I'm just very, very selective about where I put my energy. But once I pick something and once I'm like, no, I got time for this today, then it's on. Right. Then it's like I'm clear in my execution because I'm not ruled by preferences. Like just because I would prefer to be right in certain things, I'm not going to indulge that. I'm ruled by principles. So if you overstep on a principle, like I'm half monk, half mother effer on the other side. So you're going to get the other half at that point. Like, and that's the thing, the balance, right? To me, that I think gives you the power to then execute in those higher levels of life, because that's what it requires. Like the king doesn't shoot at every single person that tries to come up to the castle wall, right? He'd be tired if he did, if he was involved in everything, right? But when somebody threatens the principles that you stand on, then it's like, all right, I got time. Let's do this, right? Like let's do this. And I'm not saying from a physical standpoint, I'm way past that. I'm too old. I got gray in my beard now. I can't do that.
Right.
But if you want to have a conversation, a heated debate, like I'm here. I'm good, right? As long as the reason is worth it to me. And you have to be able to have that power to decide what is and isn't worth it. And then have the power to walk away and not let it ruin the rest of your day. Like I know people that like they won't engage in an argument, but then they're mad the rest of the day. I'm like, why? Just let it go. Who cares? Like if I say I don't care about it, I genuinely don't care. Like I don't lie. If I say something pisses me off, I'll tell you that pissed me off, right? But I'm not gonna let it. Once it's done, it's done. I'm good. Let's move on.
Right, and that's with me. That's with me. Like now, it's like okay, I'm mad about it at that moment. I feel however I'm feeling about that moment. Now, after that, all right, let me take 5 minutes, breathe in, breathe out, come back. It's like next.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Yep. It's over.
If people think, Matthew, you're just so nonchalant about a lot of things. No, I pick my headaches and I pick them wisely. I pick my battles and I pick them wisely. And the battles that I have to get involved in, I'm not, it's a battle, but I'm not standing in the battle. I'm standing at the hill. I'm standing on the hilltop looking down because I need to know what's causing this battle. It's like you play
solutions.
Right. It's like how you play, you playing your video games or whatever. And you got like the little critters or little monsters, and they may be throwing something or trying to attack you. And then you get the big boss who is like looking exactly the same, but like much bigger. Like, no, the little minions can go. I'm shooting for the big guys. So
yeah, I want to know what's at the root of this, right?
Right.
But when you do that with people, here's the other. I don't mean to cut you off, but you got me jacked up, man. So when you do that with people, it makes people uncomfortable because it's like they want to deal with all the little stuff. They want to play the games. They want to do the conversations. No. Let's just have the hard conversation and then let's move on. Let's get to the root of this. Let's figure it out. Let's move on. We're good. Everything's good.
Right. And one of my managers, he highlighted that. He said, you always come and claws out. And I'm like, no, I don't. I want to get down to the root, right? Apparently, I'm always in these situations that I have to get involved. It's always down to the root, you know. And I had to break it down to him one day. I'm like, I see things far past a lot of people. You know, I already see what's coming. You know, I explained this to somebody. I said, look, having an eye of an eagle, wonderful thing to have in life. Praise God for it. At the same time, a lot of people may have the eye of the eagle. Not a lot of people have the eye of the owl, because that owl can see a lot of stuff in the midst of darkness, you know. And I'm like, and for me, when it comes to, you know, life coaching, when it comes to just interacting with people in general, I see a lot of things inside the darkness, because, you know, people decide that they just want to paint this picture of who they want you to see them as. And a lot of people, you know, they get a little upset with me because it's like, I ain't buying it. You know, I'm not buying that product, all right? That product is defective. Like, who is the real you? You know, and I understand people feel as if though they're going to be judged and, you know, they're going to be ostracized and, you know, they're going to be hung from the cross and or whatever. And it's like, with me, I appreciate you being who you are, scars and all, because at any given moment, I will remove every title, every label, and you will see so many scars on me. I will look like a tiger. I have a scar here, a scar here. And so, you know, and I look at people and I'm like, just be you, because you realize you're doing more damage painting this picture than you do just being you. And we have to get out of that mindset of, you know, if I'm authentic, if I'm honest with myself, then I'm going to be judged. If people really hear the true me, then I'm going to be judged. I'm going to be talked about, you know. And what I have to remind people is, whether you painting this picture or whether you walking in your truth, you're going to be judged regardless.
Either way.
Yep. You're going to be talked about regardless. Somebody is going to wake up in the morning and say, I can't stand your ass, regardless. Like, so in my journey, I even with talking with people, you know, I have to understand why they feel the way that they feel, right? And the number one rule that I follow is, I am not going to sit up here and direct your feelings. I'm not going to direct your story. I'm not going to direct your experience, because I've ran across a lot of people, life coaches included, that they kind of steer that narrative or steer that experience. And it's like, not going to do it. Not going to do it, because I wasn't there when David went through whatever David went through. You know, I wasn't there when my mama went through whatever it is she went through. So I can't make a narrative or say, well, David, that ain't what really was. Your parents ain't mean it like that. This is what they really meant. How you know? You wasn't there. You know, and even if you were, the perspective that you got from a situation is different from the reality of how somebody feels.
Right.
You know, and so with me, when I say, you know, spiritual life coaching, I really have learned how to walk in discipline, because something may not be as big of a deal to me. But if I'm helping David maneuver through, I got to understand that what is a grain of sand to me is a mountain to you. You know, and here's
empathy. It's empathy.
Right. You know, and here's, you know, where I go and I'm like, okay, David, how do you feel about this? Why do you feel the way you feel? And, you know, when you have those conversations, you know, people start opening up and those layers start pulling back. and we get to okay, this don't look good. You agree that doesn't look good? Okay, so we're gonna take that out. We're gonna analyze this. Okay, why is this? Oh, because A, B, and C, and you get down to the nitty gritty, to the origin, to the root. This is why. Okay, so it wasn't the fact that you were angry because Matthew said, your shirt was ugly. The reality of it is you've worked hard for what you have, and you get a little sensitive. You get a little sensitive when someone says, things about the stuff that you buy. Why is that? Oh, because I grew up poor. I grew up homeless. There we go. And that highlights, that highlights that to the person and say, you know what? I need to work on how I feel. I need to understand my feelings on the root and why it bothers me so much. And, maybe I ain't healed. Dang, I ain't really healed from this. So I need to take this time to begin healing. And once you heal, things get better over time. So when somebody else says something about the shirt, whatever, it's like, all right, you think my shirt ugly? I like my shirt.
It's recognizing those things and recognizing your own triggers, the things that set you off, the things that upset you. And then again, like you said, analyzing those things and being able to say, okay, this is why, let me figure this out. Right. And then being able to resist that urge. It's not about being perfect. It's
right.
about how can I get better at this? Like there's still times one of my biggest flaws as a human is that I'm super, super competitive. Like I've ruined more family game nights than anybody else in the world. Like I hate losing more than anything on this planet at anything. And so for me now, I have to be able to corral that. Like I have to feel that coming and be like, okay, I got to pull back, right? Like I'm at my friend's child's birthday party. Like I don't need to win at the Papa Shot here. Like right. It's okay. It's I don't need to put up 100 points on this 6-year-old. Like I don't need to do that, right? And so, but again, it's identifying those things and it's analyzing them and then saying I'm going to get better because there's a big difference between positive delusion and self-awareness. Mm-hmm. Right? Positive delusion is just saying, take me or leave me, this is how I am, right? Self-awareness is saying, this is something that I have to work on, and here's the plan that I plan to put into action to actually work on this thing, right? And so when people come to me with well, this is just the way I am, you could take it or leave it, and if you can't deal with me at my worst, and you don't deserve me at my whoa. No, that's not true. That's not self-awareness. That's positive delusion. That's you using things as an excuse and trying to call it self-care. That's a crutch, right? Let's be honest with ourselves here, right? So the question then becomes when you run into those situations, are you incapable of making a change or are you unwilling? Because those are two different things, right? So if you can't change, then that's on you. That's a you thing, right? If you're unwilling to change, then that's something we can fix. Right. That's something that we can give you the tools. I can give you the motivation. I can give you whatever. But ultimately, if you choose not to change, then don't expect different outputs in your life. Right. You have to be able to see that and be able to say, hey, this is why this isn't serving me. This is why this response pattern doesn't work for me. This is why these things are happening. Right. And observe the trends in your life. Like, there's something to be said. If you're always the problem, then you're probably the problem, right? Like you got to figure that out. There's something in there. And it could be something as simple as just the way you communicate. Like I know people, sometimes I rub people the wrong way because I'm very forward. Like one of my core values as a human is honesty. And so I tell people in the first couple conversations that we have, like if me and you talk again after this show, probably the second or third time we talk, I will tell you, Matthew, I'll never lie to you. And from that moment on, not that I've lied to you up to this point, but from that moment on, any single thing you ask me, I'm going to give it to you straight, no chaser. Like it's coming. Mm-hmm. And so you have to be able to understand that about me. And so, but that also means that I have to work on being more empathetic at times, because sometimes I can come across as really rough because I'm just shooting from the hip. Like, I'm just giving it to you straight. Like, hey, here's how it is. And sometimes people don't want that. Right. And sometimes I have to work on being empathetic as well. So I can't just throw my hands up and say, well, I'm just honest. It's me being honest. Well, too much of a good thing, right? The difference between poison and medicine is usually dosage. Right. So you got to be able to dial back the dosage at times too. So that's important as well. But again, it all comes down to self-awareness.
Yeah, I mean, and even for me, it's like a lot of people be like, tone it down a little bit, because with me, it's like, look, I'm giving you what you need to hear, just like coffee, no cream, no sugar, straight and bold, like
right.
But everybody may not like their coffee black. Some people may like the cream and the sugar and stuff. And one thing, and I may argue, in a comical way. I may argue with people like, I don't know what you're talking about because this, and this, and this. But one thing I do understand about myself is I also had to go, as I'm going through my journey in life, I had to learn discipline. Even in life coaching, I had to learn discipline, and I had to understand who I was talking to. Me and my daddy, we can go back and forth, and not like in a disrespectful manner, but we can go back and forth, whatever. And I can be blunt and honest with him. He can be blunt and honest with me. But the next person may be like, whoa, hold up, I may hurt that person's feelings. Unbeknownst to my knowledge, it wasn't my intention, and so I've even been told, bring it down just a little bit. I'm like, okay, well, I must have to go to a cloud because I'm already sitting at phone. Like, how soft do you want me to give it to? Because it's like, I was never the person that, cupcake anything. I never sugarcoated nothing. And people had to, remind me, it's not about sugarcoating anything. It's softening realize who you're talking to, right, and softening that blow. So now, I may talk to people and I may be like this, and I may be all calm and stuff like that. And, you're going to make it. You just got to keep your head up. And I understand how you feel it. 5 years ago was the hardest thing for me to do, is to get that soft.
It's growth. It's growth. Yeah, it's recognizing your blind spots and understanding that you have to grow, man. It's again, it goes, to bring it full circle here. Like, it's the never ending journey. That's the beautiful thing about life, right?
Right.
It's about being a little bit less wrong than I was yesterday.
Right. So, one question for you that I would like to ask is, what are some of what's the word I'm looking for? I just had the question. What are some of the struggles that you encounter from life coaching?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I struggle with personally is the level of investment that I get in people. Meaning like the amount that I'm invested in them. Like, I'm not somebody that does anything halfway in life, right? And so a struggle that I have is separating like work and home, and not having it consume everything that I do, right? And so it's one of the things people have asked me, like, because I'm finishing up my PhD now, and they're like, oh, are you going to be a psychiatrist or a psychologist? And I said, no, absolutely not, because I can't, it'll eat me alive. It'll eat me alive, because I genuinely want to see people win so badly, and I want to help people. And so it's one of those things where I struggle if I want it worse for you than you want it for yourself, right? And so that's one of the struggles that I definitely have in the life coaching community. The other thing is I struggle with being, I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this. I struggle with the concept of, and I don't want to take shots here. It's not throwing shade. It's just being honest about a commentary about the community, about the coaching profession. Everybody and their brother is a coach, right? And so I do struggle with the snake oil salesman. I do struggle with those types of things. Like, and so I talk all the time. Like, I spent 10 years doing the thing before I started coaching the thing, right? And so sometimes, like, when I see 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23-year-old life coaches, and they're like, come get your mindset right with me. I'm like, hold up. What do you, and I'm not saying that you can't, right? I was a head coach at 24 years old. I'm not saying that you can't. I'm just saying there's an awful lot of unicorns that exist here, right? Like it's supposed to be one in a million, not supposed to be everybody and their brother. So that's something I struggle with. Those are just two of the simple things. I mean, from a client perspective, my clients are phenomenal, man. I got no complaints. Like, we work with people that want to get better and people that want to be elite. And it's something that I've really built into my business and really built into the way that I do things, that we don't call it sales. In my business, we call it recruiting. We want to work with people that want to work with us. So I'm not going to sell you. I don't do sales calls with people. I don't sell people in the DMs. I don't get on social media and sell. I have conversations similar like what you said. We have conversations. And if it's a fit, then it's a fit. If it's not, listen, I will recommend you to somebody that I think is a fit. We can all eat. The table is plenty big enough for everybody to eat. I just want to make sure that I'm helping this person win in whatever way that I can. So there's been times, man, where like I'll refer it right out to somebody else. Like, I have other friends that are coaches, and I'm like, hey, man, I know our personalities are not going to work. And so I'm going to send you to my guy over here. He can take care of you. He's phenomenal. I would trust him with my life. You know what I mean? Have at it, right? So that's kind of the way that I approach it.
So now that you said all that, I can get a little, I can get more in depth with some things, because for me, when the podcast has been going on for a year, right? And then I opened up this platform to where people can come on and they can share their stories, and we can have these conversations, and we can pick each other's brains, because I honestly feel I don't know everything, right? And somebody might teach me in a different perspective, or, they may present something to me that I'm like, I never even thought about that. But, just like what you've seen, you got a lot of life coaching, a lot of life coaches, but have they partaken in the fruit that they're giving? It's my thing, and it's like, like you said, there are like these young life coaches and stuff like that. But how I relate to whomever I'm talking to is my experience, so it's like, I can't tell you and coach you through mental illness if I've never experienced anything revolving around that.
Right.
I can't, I may not be able to coach you, or not coach you, but, help you walk through the journey of healing if you lose your mom. But if I've experienced losing someone, so I can experience walking with you through through that whole moment of death of a loved one, and for me, to me, what I've seen a lot of people, I guess in their head, is like, I'm going to say something to make somebody feel good, all so I can get $1.
Yeah. There's such a difference. There's such a difference when you get around coaches that genuinely are invested in you. And I think I take the word coach so much more seriously because of my background and because of, I know what my coaches meant to me. Like I said, I grew up without a father. So my coaches were like my father figures all the way through. And then when I was in the coaching community, those people I respected to a level that I don't think I'll ever respect any other community that I'm a part of, right? Is what these college coaches do. And not only that, the responsibility that came with being a coach, right? So you got to think, in the college world, you're convincing someone to give you their child for 4 years. Like, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. And so when I got into executive coaching and performance coaching and mindset coaching, the things that I do now, I almost take it very personally when I see somebody doing exactly what you're saying, where it's like, no, man, these people are trusting you with their lives, literally.
Right.
Like they're making decisions based off of your advice. They're making, and in some terms, life-altering decisions. Like these people are deciding whether or not to leave a significant other based on your advice. These people are deciding whether or not to fix something broken in their family after a death based on your advice. These people are deciding how to act in a job interview based on your advice, right? Like you have to take that. There's such a responsibility that comes with it that it drives me nuts when I see other coaches that don't take that responsibility as seriously. And it does. It becomes, let me make you feel good. You call me for 30 minutes. I'll give you, reaffirm you that you're perfect and everything's okay, and I'm going to make you feel good. And then you're going to wire me or send me a Venmo or whatever. You're going to pay your monthly premium, and I'm not thinking about you for the rest of the time, right? Like I can't. Like I had somebody that I worked with, and again, I'm not throwing shade. I'm not throwing shade on other coaches because I think there's some phenomenal life coaches out there,
right?
People that are truly, truly, truly changing lives. But I do know I've worked with a client where they said they talked to their coach about something, whatever, and it was a big moment in their life. And then they didn't hear from the coach until the next week when they had their call. And I'm like, man, like to me, that's like if my client says, hey, I'm starting a business, I need your help with this, and this, whatever, I'm going to text them throughout the day. Like, hey man, how's this going? Did you get a chance to do that? Let's talk about this. Did you have questions on that? Like, now again, obviously I have boundaries on my own time as a professional, but I'm not just in it. You're not just a number on a calendar for me. You're not just a number on a profit and loss sheet for me.
Mm-hmm.
You're part, and we say the Edge family, like we are legitimate about that. And yeah, man. So that's my take on it. I just think there's the word coach means something, and if you don't feel that way, you're in the wrong profession.
Yeah, and I've told a lot of people. I said, look, this podcast, this platform, this wasn't built by 100% by what went on in here.
Mm-hmm.
This was built by the Almighty God Himself. Me and Him had 2 years to create this baby. We speaking to people across the board, whether you in Christianity or you're not in Christianity,
mm-hmm.
whether you're man or whether you're a woman, whether you're white, whether you're Hispanic, whether you're black, it doesn't matter, because every single community that we can think of, everybody are going through these things, and everybody have some of the similar stories. And so for me, it's like I'm speaking in a language to where everybody understands. And so I just had this moment that I'm looking at this stuff and seeing all these people do this. I call it skim surface life coaching. And it's like, look, if God opened up the windows of heaven and there's some fame involved, if there's, instead of it being, my rice and beans, this is my steak and potatoes. If that comes to that, thank you, God. But I will never forget the promise I made with Him, B, this baby, right? And so I'm in this, and it was one time I posted in like one of the podcast groups, and and they took everything in me not to throw shade at everybody else, but I toned it down a little bit. I said, look, this is who I am. This is what I mean by spiritual life coaching. This is how I get down. I get down and dirty. So when you come back in the house, you're dirty. And so I had like a lot of positive feedback because people was literally thinking the same thing. That, I'm not going to give you some false narrative on life, making you feel good for a short amount of time, but not helping you walk through the things that you need to walk through. And right. So for me, it was more of, just know what you're doing, stay focused on what you're doing. And from there, always remember, where you are.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Edge Leadership Academy.
Yeah, man. So, like I said, I mean, what we do, we're kind of three divisions now. So we're at the point where we have our corporate arm, which is more traditional management training. We'll come in, we'll do leadership curriculums, we'll do workshops about culture, workshops about high performance, sales, like I said, leadership, moving up in the leadership roles, things like that. We also do a lot of keynote addresses. So we'll come into companies, if they have their regional retreats or their national retreats or whatever, we'll come in and be the keynote speaker at those. We also do a lot of one-on-one coaching from the executive side. So think of, if you ever seen the show Billions, think of Wendy Rhodes. We'll come in and we'll kind of be that performance coach for you, to make sure that you're showing up as the best version of yourself, to lead yourself in your business. And then on the personal side, so we have our corporate side, we have our individual side, which is what kind of we talked about today, which is like the one-on-one, more life coaching type coaching, right? So we hit on leadership, we hit on mindset, we hit on all those things, but it's more packaged in like a more holistic view. We don't just focus on the work aspect. We focus on everything that's going on in your life. And to me, it's one of the more rewarding areas because we get to fix the whole system, right? And now you see people leveling up. So we have that. We have our mentorship group in there as well. And then on the athletic side, I'm still heavily involved in college athletics. We have 35 NCAA teams that we go out and do workshops for. We also do a lot of like coach the coaches, which again, I really enjoy because as we just talked about, I'm passionate about that word coach. So for me to be able to go out and spend time with those coaches and talk about what does it mean to not only be a coach, but be a leader and be somebody that's a role model for the next generation. So that's what we do as a whole. That being said, man, it's been a wild ride. And if you would have told me 4 years ago when I started this business that this is what it would look like in 4 years, I would have laughed you out of the room. But, the right opportunities have come up. We've been aligned with the right people. And I've stuck to my vision, my mission, and my values. And so we've been able to build something really, really special that's continuing to grow every day.
Okay. So where can we go to find out more information?
Yes, social media, we're very active. I'm always shooting my mouth off on Instagram and TikTok and all of those. So I'm at Coach D Kitch on every single social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, whatever the new one is, Threads, all that stuff is at Coach D Kitch. And then our website is edgeleadershipacademy.com. So if people are looking for the corporate side, usually the website is the best place for that. If you're looking for more of the individual side, just DM me on social media and I'll be the first person to get back to you.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up. It was an honor and a privilege to have you on here. And I hope that, everyone who watched this episode have received some information from you and received some jewels and some knowledge from you. So everyone, this is Mr. David Kitchen of the Edge Leadership Academy. Feel free to, reach out to him and he'll give you more information about everything that he does. Once again, sir, I appreciate you coming on the podcast with me.
Thank you, Matthew. Thanks for having a conversation. That's what I enjoy, man. I like being able to talk and be real with people and just have a conversation. So thank you for the platform you've created and for making the word coach mean something. I appreciate it.
Well, my pleasure. So we're going to wrap this up. Like I said, for those who watching the podcast, like, share, subscribe, tell a friend and tell a friend to tell another friend. But yeah, so by that being said, we're going to end the podcast, and to everyone, continue to be bright and continue to tap into the life that you're meant to be living. Until next time, take care.